Welcome back to the Daily Dean. I hope you had happy holidays, seasons, times, happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Today, I'm going to be talking about pine cones. Pine cones are something we don't really think about. At least I didn't until I went outside and I saw one on the ground and I picked it up and I wondered about it. So that made me think, oh, this would be a great thing to talk about on the Daily Dean. So I have the Wikipedia page up on it, and you can say what you want about Wikipedia, but how I like to look at it, with millions of pages, I don't know why somebody would want to edit the page on pinecone, biology and structure. So this is me talking about it and sharing what I've learned. So a cone, or first let me preface this: I'm not a biologist, or what would a person who studies trees be, like a botanist, possibly. I think that's flowers. But anyways, I'm not an expert in pinecone physiology. This is a very basic look that I got from looking at the page that you can find yourself, that I'm just going to share with you through my filter. So there's two types of cones, a female and a male cone. The one that you're most familiar with is the one that has the little scales on it that are like fish scales. They overlap on each other, and they're connected to what I originally thought was the seed, right? The inside of the cone was the central stem that had to be the seed where the thing grew out of, right? That makes sense because, the reason why it has scales is to protect itself from the ground or something, right? But apparently that's not necessarily the case. For purposes of just generalizing things, the pine cone, because there's different types of cones in the conifer family. In this one is the Pinecow cone of the pine family. This type has scales in order to prevent itself from being eaten by birds, because the cones themselves actually are connected to a central stem that isn't the seed. The central stem is itself just a piece that holds the rest of the scales. The scales are connected at each end. There is an ovum that is then pollinated, that then becomes a seed. So if you imagine my finger as the central stem, and there are little bits and parts poking out of it like a pine cone shape, with each scale, if you dig deep, you would find a seed. So if you could say there's 30, 40 scales, there's 30 to 40 seeds in that pine cone. So the pine cones themselves are part of the trees. They're like organs. They open up like flowers, kind of, and they get pollinated from other trees and stuff, giving off their tree juice and things. That once again, not a professional, so that's why I'm kind of explaining it kind of wonkily. This is what I've gathered from it. They open up, get pollinated, and then the seeds disperse, right? Shoom, 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 shoom. Or in some cases, like you may know, they fall out. I don't know why they fall out. This is my assumption, again, not reading off the page. When I see pine cones on the ground, they appear to be gray, so that must mean that they're dead, right? Haven't double-checked that, but that's kind of what I assume, because gathering from this, the pine cones themselves are like vessels for the seeds. Each scale is connected to a seed that is then let off when it's pollinated. When that seed is, when all the seeds are now gone, the pine cone, I assume, gets tossed off. A new pine cone takes its place, possibly with new seeds. So once again, that was my own guess as to why pine cones fall off. But there's more things about brach scales and seed scales subtended by each brach scale. I don't know what that means, but I just thought that was interesting. The pine cone scales will open up like the fish scales, get pollinated, boom, bam, seeds out, reproduced. So that's interesting, how biology sometimes evolves some things that, you know what? This is also a good point as well to bring up convergent evolution. When two species, say for example, evolved on two separate places, separate environments, but converged to one likely thing. You can see that with, I saw this awesome video from PBS, why the heck do things keep evolving into crabs, or just shells? And I'll put down in the description below that talks about evolution as well. If you found this interesting, I'll check that out as well. Basically, two things from different environments can evolve to have the same thing, shells, like crabs do, even though they're not, the same species, or they came from different environments and, factors that influence them converging onto one type of, archetype, in this case, shells. So, that's all. I hope you found that interesting. I found it interesting. So, Bye.